You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family,
DNA ID,
Scene of the Crime, 3 Men and a Mystery,
All Things Crime,
and
Zodiac Speaking.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to look for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy, and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. Episode 34, Donna Kay Gibson. In 1995, 32-year-old Donna Kay Gibson was living with her husband Jimmy and their 3 young daughters. Also living in the home was Donna's son from an earlier relationship, 12-year-old Randy Fowler Jr. Donna had met Jimmy when Randy was 4 years old, and he was not in regular contact with his own father. Donna was a homemaker who, according to people who knew her, loved being a mom to Randy and the 3 Gibson girls and taking care of the family. She was used to being virtually a single parent during the week, as her husband Jimmy worked a job that was several hours away in Maryland and only came home on weekends. Of late, though, Jimmy was suffering from some significant health issues and was not able to work, so he was at home with the family more often. The Gibsons had lived in the home, located on Route 601 in rural Louisa, Virginia, for 4 years. On Friday night, February 24th, Donna took a roast out of the freezer to make for the midday meal on Saturday. The family wound down the evening and prepared for bed. Donna was suffering from what has been reported to be laryngitis and wanted to sleep on the downstairs couch. The 2 older girls, Tricia, who was 8, and Melissa, who was 5, asked to be able to sleep in Jimmy's room as a treat. The youngest daughter, Miranda, who was only 18 months old, also slept upstairs. Randy had his own room on the downstairs level. Although he was a light sleeper and the floorboards of the home creaking often woke him, he heard nothing that night. Sometime in the early morning hours of Saturday, February 25th, Tricia sneaked down to get a drink. She glanced into the living room and saw a lump on the couch that she assumed was her mom asleep. She got her drink and went back to bed. In the morning, the kids came downstairs and jumped on the couch to wake their mom. But it wasn't her. Pillows were laid on the couch and covered with a blanket. When the kids climbed onto the sofa, they realized that they were put there to look as though Donna was lying there. Donna was nowhere in the house. The kids and Jimmy all called for her, but there was no response. No one knew where she had gone or when. There was no evidence of a break-in or a struggle, although the doors to the outside were not locked. After the family searched the house and found no signs of Donna, Randy rode his bike around to the neighbors, but no one had seen anything either. Jimmy called around to ask friends if they had seen his wife, but no one had. When he called the police, they informed him that he would need to wait 24 hours to file a missing persons report. Jimmy's relatives, who lived in nearby Maryland, got in the car to come to the Gibson home and help look for Donna and take care of the kids. The family started trying to put together what happened to Donna. They discovered that none of her clothing was missing. From what they could tell, she was dressed only in her nightgown and bathrobe. But this did not make sense. It was February in Virginia, and temperatures that night were below freezing. And Donna's most important personal possessions, her purse, her cigarettes, which she always had on her person, and her glasses were all in the house. Donna relied on those glasses as she was very nearsighted. Her family has described her as blind as a bat. Police, once they started to investigate, believed that Donna had stepped out of the house intending to be gone only for a brief amount of time. Search dogs that were eventually brought in weren't able to track a scent very far, stopping at a gravel road. What had happened to Donna after that was, and still is, a mystery. The question Donna's children have been asking themselves for decades now is whether their mother left on her own, choosing to abandon her husband and children and walk off into the night. Donna's own mother had left her when she was a child, and it was not out of the question that Donna could have done the same. And she and her husband had had their problems. In fact, Donna had had relationships with men outside the marriage. But Donna's friends said that she never would have left her kids. If Donna didn't leave, what happened to her? There were a few clues. When police were searching for Donna, they found some beer cans and blankets under the house in the crawl space. It appeared that someone had been hanging out there and possibly sleeping there. The family believes that they know who this was, a man named Jerry Ray Hall. As I said, Jimmy and Donna had had problems in their marriage. Donna's friends say she was not happy in the marriage, and Jimmy's health issues also placed a strain on things. And Donna began having an affair with this Jerry Ray Hall, a local outdoorsman who lived just down the road. About a year before Donna went missing, Jimmy came home unexpectedly one day and found Donna and Jerry together. He was reportedly crushed at her infidelity, although it was not the first time. Donna broke things off with Jerry, but Jerry would not take this lying down. He called Donna constantly and even showed up at the house, spying on the family by peeking in the windows. The family later found out that Jerry sent Donna numerous letters, which she kept hidden in a light fixture in the kitchen. In the letters read by the family after Donna's disappearance, Jerry proposes that he and Donna run away together and even offers to kill Jimmy so he would be out of the picture. Jimmy urged Donna to file a restraining order against Jerry Hall. She did so, and it was awarded to her, although the family is not certain exactly when this happened. It was sometime in the months before Donna vanished in the night. Donna's family believes that she left the house that night to have a conversation with Jerry, who was hiding out under the Gibson family house to stay close to her. Something happened between the two, and Donna never came back inside. Police did interview Jerry Ray Hall. He admitted to being there the night Donna disappeared, but denied doing anything to her. However, the family has heard reports that Jerry confessed to his brother that he killed Donna and disposed of her body. They firmly believe that he is responsible for Donna's disappearance and probable murder. Unfortunately, the police focused their investigation on Jimmy Gibson. They questioned him a number of times and subjected him to 3 polygraph exams. According to his daughters, he passed every time. Tricia and her sisters do not believe their father was involved. For one thing, his physical challenges would have prevented him from physically carrying out the deed and disposal. Jimmy ended up succumbing to his illnesses in 2006 at only 45. For another thing, 2 of the girls were in the room with Jimmy that night, and Randy was downstairs near Donna. If there had been an argument or a struggle, the family feels that they would have heard something. Jerry Ray Hall is currently serving time in prison for unrelated charges involving weapons. He has quite a record, including grand larceny, possession of a firearm by a felon, brandishing a firearm, attempted escape, assault, trespassing, and robbery, as well as numerous probation violations. He has never been charged or even named as a suspect in Donna's case. When she disappeared, Donna Gibson was a Caucasian female with blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a mole on her left cheek and a tattoo of a butterfly on her left ankle. She is 5 foot tall and 115 pounds. Mike Morford sat down to talk to Donna's daughters, Trisha and Miranda, about their mother's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
I want to welcome Trisha and Miranda to Missing Persons. Thank you for both coming on to discuss your mom Donna's case with us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Your mom vanished in 1995, so it's over 25 years ago now. How old were both of you when she went missing, and how have you both coped with not having your mom around all this time?
You can go first, Trisha.
Well, I was 8 years old when she became missing, and I've just had to learn to cope with things over the years, growing up quicker than most kids have to, having to assume, the role and responsibility of doing things around the house and helping, and, as the mother figure, because she was gone. That's been, a lot on me over the years. But yeah, like I said, I've kind of just rolled with it and learned to deal with it without her. We miss her, but, at the same time, I don't have a whole lot of memories of her. We just want to know, like I said, what happened to her.
For me, I was only 18 months old when she went missing. I'm now 28, so I have no memory at all of her. I just basically have the memories that have been told to me by other family members to what happened, how she was as a person. Growing up, it was hard when I was younger, trying to cope with the fact that other kids had their mothers on Mother's Day and got to do like the mommy and me things at school. And I really didn't get to have that. I did just because my grandmother and my aunt would come in and kind of, be the mom in that situation. But I've coped with it through the years just because I didn't know any better.
What we're going to see too, as we talk a little bit, is that when someone goes missing like this and the police start digging through their lives, a lot of things come to the surface which people never thought about or never knew about, and we'll talk about some of that. But before we get into the details of what emerges, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do remember of your mom, or what's been told to you about your mom, and what kind of person she was?
Basically, when before she met my dad, I was told that she was a little bit, wilder and things like that. She met my dad and settled down a little bit enough to get pregnant with me, which is her oldest daughter. And then she had my other two sisters. But throughout the time that her and my dad were together, from what I remember and from what I was told, she was very promiscuous at times. She had relations with other men. And, I'm not saying that makes her a horrible person, but she did a lot of things behind, my dad's back with that sort of thing.
For me, I mostly heard that she, just like Trisha said, was very promiscuous. There are differing opinions as far as the type of person she was. Some would say that she loved us and she was a real family person. Others have said that she was not the best of people, that she, ran around on our dad, and that she didn't always take the best of care of us. So with not really remembering a whole lot of the situation, we do have to kind of go off of other people's opinions. I think at one point the police department even kind of pushed the case away simply because she was such a promiscuous woman.
And that's got to be tough for you to hear about the secret parts of someone's life that's so close to you. I think kids growing up, we don't realize that our parents are humans and they make mistakes, right, or they have qualities that we don't always see or know about. But when a spotlight is shined on a case like this one is, those kind of things sort of come out. Has that been tough for you both to sort of have to hear that stuff and sort through that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Not only just, about her, but pertaining to the case, like with my dad, it's really tough for me, hearing people, try to say, oh, he had something to do with it, just for the fact that, I mean, in my heart, I know he didn't. And I know people will say, well, that's what you believe in. But I mean, all of the evidence and circumstances, you know, they even prove that he had nothing to do with it. But that's hard. You know, it's hard not having a mom, but it's also hard when your dad's the only thing you have left, basically, and people want to point the finger at him, you know? So, yeah, that's definitely hard.
Yeah, and it seems like in these kind of cases, the people closest to the victims are the ones that are looked at first. And of course, this could give your father a reason or a motive in the eyes of the police. So it's understandable, but that they're looking at him, that people have considered him. But at the same time, that's got to be awfully tough for you to hear.
Well, definitely. And also, you know, for the fact that he has, you know, passed away. He passed away back in 2006, and he had renal kidney failure. So, I mean, you know, we saw him sick for a while and things like that. And, you know, unfortunately, we've been through a lot more than just our mom, you know, waking up one morning, her becoming missing. You know, we've had a lot of sickness in our family. We've basically lost everyone, you know, and that, you know, quote unquote, our family that we have, our grandfather, our grandmother, our father, our aunt. You know, we really have nobody except for just us girls and then our half brother, Randy.
That's got to be a tough situation to be in. If you can, and again, based on what you remember and based on what you've learned or has been shared with you, can you go back to February 1995? What was going on in your family life, in your home life around that time as a family and everyday life?
Everyday life was pretty much, I guess you would say, a normal everyday life. I do know that, you know, I can't remember exactly how many months prior, but a little while before that, she had called it off with someone that she was seeing on the side at the time. And my dad had found out about it and had told her, you know, she needed to get a protective order against him and something, I think a no trespassing order. That way he couldn't come on our property or come, you know, around her. I think they were trying to kindle things between them. She had said she was going to do, you know, the right thing and not, you know, see other people. And, but basically we went to bed that night. I remember she had laryngitis. I remember my father, had let my one sister, Melissa, and I sleep with him, because our room wasn't clean. They wanted us to clean our room. Our mom did. And we took and threw everything on the bed instead of putting it away. And so therefore we had nowhere to sleep. So our father said we could sleep with him since our mom was sleeping on the couch anyways, because she wasn't feeling well. So like I said, you know, it was a normal night. We went to sleep. She had taken a roast out that night, to, you know, thaw out for the next day to cook it. There wasn't any, you know, thing that I can remember, of course, being 8 years old, that would make me think that she had planned to leave in any way.
And walk us through when your family realized that she was missing. Who was the first person to find out, and what happened after that?
Well, that morning, I remember waking up and looking in the kitchen at the clock, and I believe it was like six something. I believe I'm not quite 100% sure, but I remember looking. I was going to get something to drink out of the fridge, and I was trying to be sneaky about it because, you know, we weren't allowed to get anything during the night or anything. But so I was trying to be sneaky to go in the fridge to get it, and I remember looking in the living room to see, you know, if my mom was awake, and I just seen kind of like a hump there on the couch. So I got something to drink, went back to bed real quick. And then the next, that same morning, a few hours later, I'd say probably about 2 hours later, I woke up, and my sister Melissa and I went into the living room to go wake our mom up so we could watch a movie. And when we went to kind of like jump on the couch, you know, to wake her up, we just kind of sank through it. So it was the same hump that I had seen earlier. but she wasn't there. It was kind of like made up like a makeshift like person who was like sleeping there, like the way the hump looked, the blankets were over it, the pillows were underneath. So like I said earlier, when I had seen that, it looked like she was there, but obviously she wasn't.
Is there any way to tell that it was set up to look like someone was sleeping there, or do you think that's just the way the pillows and blankets happened to be laying there? What was your impression looking back now of, do you think someone tried to make it look like there was someone under the blanket?
To me, of course I can't say for sure, but in my mind, from what I remember, it definitely looked like perhaps maybe she wanted it to look like she was there sleeping on the couch in case if my dad or one of us got up and thought she was there. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But to me, just from my memories and what I'm remembering, it looked like, her or whoever deliberately put the pillow there underneath the blankets like she was sleeping there.
And from there, did you tell your dad, and what did he say when you told him?
Well, yeah, he was basically coming out right after us. Right after we had jumped on the couch, we noticed and we had went and told him, and I'm guessing he was like in the kitchen. I can't remember 100%, but he was somewhere close, and we told him, and we remember him saying, well, maybe she's outside or something. She did smoke, so we thought maybe she was outside smoking a cigarette. We weren't alarmed at first, really. We weren't, oh my gosh, we were just thinking wonder where she is. And then my dad had started, calling people, I guess, in the vicinity of where we lived. My brother got on his bike and rode his bike up and down the road, just seeing if anyone had seen her. A couple hours passed. We were reaching out to family members in another state just to see if they had heard from her. And I think around that time, my dad started really thinking, okay, something is just not right. He called the police, and the police had told him, of course, this is in 1995, they told him that he needed to wait 24 hours to file a police report. So he couldn't file an official report until the next day. But he had contacted the police department, in the meantime, to let them know that we didn't know where she was. And I'm not going to lie, at first, even at 8 years old, I remember everybody kind of thinking, well, she's just gone off again. She's gone with somebody, she's gone out with somebody and doing what she shouldn't be doing or something. But we didn't think here we would be, 25 years later, not knowing. So
it sounds like there was some concern that she was gone, but then the family started thinking, okay, maybe she just went off someplace. Maybe, there's no foul play involved in it. Was there any sign of the struggle or anything in the house? Did anyone hear anything unusual that night?
No, not at all. My brother actually my half-brother slept in a bedroom that was a lot closer to where she was sleeping in the living room, and he heard nothing that night. One of the weird things about it is that she, like I had mentioned earlier, she was a smoker. She was famous for always having her cigarette on her and her eyeglasses. She had really bad eyesight, so she would either have her contact lenses or her glasses. And both of those things, the cigarette case with the cigarettes inside and the eyeglasses and the contact lenses were all left there. Her purse was left. Everything was left. It was like whatever she had on, that was it. That was the only thing missing.
So it was almost as if she perhaps walked outside and, to get fresh air or something, and was planning on coming right back in, because you would think if she was going someplace for a period of time, she'd want to bring her cigarettes and her eyeglasses with her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that she left with the intention of coming back inside, whether she was coaxed outside by someone else, or she just went outside, like you said, simply to get some fresh air or something like that. But I definitely think she had intentions of coming back inside.
And did your mom drive?
She did, but from what I can recall, she had only had her license for a very short time before she went missing. My dad had been teaching her, how to drive and get more comfortable behind the wheel, and she finally went and got her license. But she hadn't had it very long. I'm not sure about how long, but I just know it wasn't a long time.
And so she didn't have her own car. You had, take it, one family vehicle, and that was still there?
Yeah, I think we had two vehicles, but they were both there.
Okay, so no evidence that she drove anyplace.
No.
So the 24 hours goes by. I know you mentioned that people assume maybe she ran off with someone and she'd be back, but as that 24 hours ticked by and you're waiting to be able to go back to the police, did people start to get legitimately worried that, hey, this isn't like her, she wouldn't just run off like this and not come back?
Oh yeah, I think we all did. After I think that night, like when she hadn't come back that evening or that night, we all did. Simply because of course she left behind kids, but the youngest, which was Miranda, she was only 18 months. So a lot of us, especially the adults, I remember thinking, like she wouldn't, leave without, the baby. Like she wouldn't just leave the baby like that, and comments like that. But we were definitely worried. Unfortunately, the concerns weren't strong enough for the police department to do what they were supposed to do on their end, and that beginning that investigation and all. So, we were worried, but I don't feel like the law enforcement was worried enough as they should have been.
And I know as kids, you probably weren't told everything at the time, or you weren't able to hear all the conversations that went down, but maybe looking back now with what you've learned since then, what did the police talk about with your father? Perhaps did they talk about the men that your mom was seeing, and did your dad know any of them and point the police to them so they could go question them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first name that came out of my father's mouth and that we all thought of was the man Jerry Hall. And that's who we firmly believe that, well, at least I do. I firmly believe that he had something to do with her disappearance. She was the man who he had recently, just a few months before she had passed. She had been, in a relationship with him, and my father had, had her put the protective order against him. And he was also known to come around our house and peek in our windows and things like that. It was just a really scary situation with this man. He was definitely not somebody that my father wanted around. So like I said, he had told her, you need to get a protective order on him and all. And I remember him telling the police about that. The police knew, obviously, because she had to go to them to get the protective order. But they never really did too much with this guy. I know that he was questioned. I know that they questioned my father, of course. They did lie detector tests on both of them. I know my father passed all the ones that he had taken. I'm not sure how Jerry's came back. But there were, like I said, there were a lot of things that pointed to him.
Did they talk to any other people, like, for example, Randy's biological father? Did they reach out to other people from your mom's past to talk to them as well?
Well, I had spoken with one of my mom's friends, and she had said that they never even questioned her. She was one of my mom's very close friends that lived right down the road, and she had informed me that she was never questioned by the police. Which I think is very odd. I do know that they talked, they did not question Randy's father, my brother's father, because I believe at that time he was probably in jail. But no, other than Randy and myself and aiming their sights at my father a lot, nobody else really was talked to or, interviewed about what happened to her.
And I think one of the things that's been discussed is maybe at the time your father had some health problems, and it would have been hard for him to if he was involved, to cover up or do something to your mom and then hide her. Is that correct?
At that time when she became missing, he did not know that he had kidney disease at that time. Now, at that time, he also was every bit of 400 and some pounds. So, I don't really know. He had a hard time getting around at times. He had things like gout and things like that, which caused him not to be able to move around very well at times. So I really in that aspect, I don't feel like he could have done anything like that.
Talking a little bit about Jerry, because it seems like he was the first person on your mind, your father's mind, as a potential suspect. Do you know what the restraining order itself was based on? Was there some specific incident that happened where your dad told your mom, you better get this restraining order in place?
Well, the incident that happened was that he was caught. My father was working. I'm not sure if it was completely based around this, but I do remember this happening. My father was going to school and worked 4 hours away in Maryland. And so he would commute 4 hours. Well, instead of doing that during the week, he would just stay at his mom and dad's, which is my grandparents' house. And he would come home on the weekends from work. And that day, it was not a weekend, it was a weekday. And he wanted to surprise, my mom and us and come home and see us. And he came in and found her with Jerry. And so I'm guessing it was from that. I remember that happening, but I also remember he was caught peeking in the windows and things like that, which she had told her friends about as well. So it wasn't just us who saw him peeking in the windows. Other people knew about it because she was telling them. And, like I said, my dad was trying to, rekindle their marriage and make it work, especially for us, the kids and all. And so that's all I can, gather myself would be the reason why that she got that.
So it sounds like this guy was a pretty bad guy, and your father was wary enough of him to want this restraining order. Do you know how closely the police checked with him or looked at him, and if he had an alibi or anything on the night your mom went missing?
Yeah, that's a joke. I don't believe they looked at him at all, because if they did, then we would have already solved this case. I'm pretty certain. But no, to be honest, we weren't from originally down in that area. And, there's places like that where if you're not from, originally down there and you have somebody who is, more than likely they're not going to mess with you too much. They're going to put their aim on the person who's not from down there, and which was my dad. And they just had it out for him, even though he had passed the lie detector test and all. They just wanted to put it on him, I feel like, in a sense. Jerry, there was a lot of circumstantial evidence. I feel like the next day, which was a Sunday, I remember my grandfather telling us that he had found out that Jerry had got an eye injury and went to a hospital. I'm not sure which one it was, but was treated for an eye injury. And he said he cut it on a tree in the woods. But ironically, my mom had just had her nails done as well. So we thought, maybe she could have scratched him. I don't know. It's just a lot of things that just don't make sense that point to him, I feel like.
I know there were some little clues here and there that were found. Like one time, there were some beer cans and blankets found under the house. Can you talk a little bit about that, those things that were found?
Sure. One morning, I was laying in my bed in my room, and I remember hearing rustling outside of my window. And at first, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I'm 8 years old. And so finally, I get up and I look out the window, and it's Jerry coming from underneath of our house, running towards our woods. Behind us, we had, just tons of woods. And he was in all brown, almost like a hunting type outfit, running into our woods. And I screamed, and my dad came in there and said, "What's going on?" And I told him, and he ran outside. And of course, Jerry was already through the woods by then. And my dad had called the cops, and they came out and went up underneath the house and ended up finding like a blanket and beer cans. I'm not exactly sure what, but that's just from what I can remember. So he was staying underneath the house. We don't know if it was before she was missing, he was staying there, or after, or what, but so that was pretty creepy.
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing to have someone that your dad's trying to keep your mom away from living right under the house. Very scary. Ultimately, he had some issues with the law and wound up in prison, and he's there from what I understand until 2024. Can you talk a little bit about what he's in jail for?
All I know is that I believe it's for violation of probation, maybe, or something like that. I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but it's safe to say that based on everything that you've heard of and people have told you, that he's not a good guy, and he's sounds pretty dangerous.
Oh, he is definitely an insane person. Like there's other things, and it's so random. And I know it's like I said, it's random to just kind of spit it out now. But after my mom had went missing, my brother and I would walk up to the end of our driveway, and my grandfather had made us like a little tiny house to stand in to catch the bus. So when it rained, we wouldn't get rained on, and that sort. And he came one time down the road because he didn't live very far at all. He lived right down the road from us. And he came down the road in his truck and swerved into our yard and acted like he was trying to hit me and my brother. And like I said, I was 8 years old, but I can remember that plain as day. Things like that he did. He wrote my mom letters that was found when we were, going through the trailer. I guess police had come there looking for clues. They had found letters up inside of like a light in the kitchen. And they were letters from him saying that he wanted to run off with her and kill my dad and run off with her and take us and this and that, and just really disgusting and vulgar things in it of what he wanted to do to her, sexual things and stuff. So he's very crazy, I feel.
Yeah, pretty disturbing stuff, and he definitely has a history of some different crimes. I know some of the stuff that research shows that he had possession of a firearm by a felon, brandishing a firearm, assault, trespassing, robbery, just a laundry list of stuff. So definitely seems like he could be someone that would be potentially involved. Was there any kind of searches done for your mom? Any organized searches with dogs or searchers or anything in the area?
I think from what I can recall, there were some in the woods right behind our home. I think they took dogs back there. I recall them saying that the dog lost scent at a gravel road that was back behind the house. I don't know, how true that is or what exactly happened. I just recalling them saying that. But other than that, my grandfather and my aunt and, the close family that we did have on my dad's side, they really got out there with flyers and stuff and was hanging them and trying to find out where she was with no results, unfortunately.
Do you know if your mom's bank accounts or social security number or anything like that have been used over the years?
To my knowledge, her social security card has not been used at all. Her social security number.
And I know a lot of times in cases like this, especially if it's a smaller town or not as many people, there'll be some rumors that spread around. Has any of that happened over the years? Has there been any rumors that you've heard time and again that you sort of give any kind of credibility to?
Yeah, definitely. We've heard rumors. Of course, you have the people who make up things and say, oh, her husband had to have done it. And then there's the people who say the things about Jerry. Yeah, he took her and did this. There's several people who have come forward and said that Jerry has admitted to them. Yeah, I killed her and such and such. I'm not sure exactly how this is said. It was said to my middle sister, Melissa, but supposedly Jerry had admitted to his own brother that he killed Donna and put her somewhere that they'll never find her, and that he gutted her like a pig or something like that. And we've heard that, several times from people telling us that Jerry's been said that he's done it. So, of course, he's not going to tell the police that, but he's told other people, even his own brother.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating to hear all that stuff and, see a guy like him that's a known criminal saying that stuff, but the police aren't acting on that.
Exactly.
And you did talk a little bit about the police maybe dropping the ball or not acting quickly enough or not taking it seriously enough. After all these years, what are the shortcomings that you both see or both think the police are responsible for, and what kind of things would you like to see them try and do that maybe they haven't done?
I think they really need to push forward with Jerry. I think they need to, I'm not sure exactly how they go about doing it, but, they need to continue to interrogate him and find out what he knows, what he, what he'll admit, what he does, doesn't want to talk about. Well, I'm sorry, but, he try to find out something. I know the last time that I was told that they spoke with him, he had gotten so upset that his psychiatrist in jail or prison had told him that they had to shut the interview down. So, and it's like that was years and years ago. So it's I don't know. It's just there's such a pattern with this guy getting in trouble. And, I feel like everything's there. We just need somebody to really sit down and focus on it. When we call, they tell us, oh, we're doing this. And then we call back a month later, we get the same response. And then no one ever calls us back, keeps us updated. We have to call. And like I said, when we do call, it's the same thing over and over. So I feel like we're not getting anywhere. If they would have, fully investigated this from the beginning and really looked, at this man and, took it for what it was worth. And he would be in jail right now for what happened. But instead, they were more fixated on my dad. And that's why we never found anything out. Here we are 25 years later. We still have no answers. We're in the same exact position, if not worse. So
and I really feel like it speaks volumes. I think even now, anyone who can kind of look at the case from a fresh point of view, an outsider looking in on the situation, they can see, okay, so the police department was looking at our father as he was the one who committed this crime. He was the one who had part in everything and did everything that was done and made it to where she was missing. But he's the one who stuck with us, took care of Reed's 3 girls and a son that wasn't even biologically his up until the day he died in 2006. And then you look at the other person who was the suspect. He's in prison for numerous charges. So it's really, I don't really feel like it takes a rocket scientist to really look at this case and say, okay, so maybe we should look more into this man. But as my sister said, we have tried. I've called on a weekly basis the police department, and they refuse to give us a call back. When they do, we get the runaround. Oh, well, it's in the back of a shed, so we have to go to the back of that shed and pull that file. And, oh, we're going to be out for the next 6 weeks for this and that, so we'll get back to you then. We haven't heard anything. It's been a few months since we've heard anything. This is Miranda, I haven't learned anything. They won't give me any information. We've tried filing requests to get information to see, what evidence they have. We get denied every time. So we really feel like the police department is almost at a point where it's like, well, it's been 25 years, so let's just kind of keep giving them the runaround until they give up. And it sucks. She was a nobody to them because it wasn't their mother. It wasn't their wife. It wasn't, their family member. And it hurt me being 28 years old, knowing that I lost my mom at 18 months old at such a crucial age, and how much heartbreak our family has gone through because we're always wondering what happened. And it's disgusting to think of how the police department has really turned their back on us. They're supposed to serve and protect. And we don't feel like justice has been served at all, and we don't feel protected.
It's got to be an awful feeling to know that the people that are supposed to be helping you find out what happened to your mom are sort of not communicating with you to the best of their abilities, or communicating with you at all in some instances.
Right. It's been very frustrating. Trisha and I have really done our best to try to keep calling, but I mean, we're wives, we're mothers, we have kids in school, we have children that are not in school. We're just as busy, but we're still here trying to figure out what happened 25 years ago. I want to be able to explain to my children why they don't have a grandmother, why, the sisters are as close as we are. Unfortunately, it has put a big strain on the family. we don't know how to really let anyone in because we're afraid that things are going to be taken away.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. And whether it's been 25 years and mistakes were made, hopefully the police can overcome those mistakes and take a new approach, maybe look at it with fresh eyes, so that your mom's case isn't simply just forgotten about after so long. Are there any websites or social media accounts or anything set up about your mom's case where people can learn more about it or maybe provide some kind of tips to you about things they may have heard?
Not that I know of. I know that her story is on, I believe it's called the Charlie Project, the charlieproject.org, I think it is. But I don't think that would be a bad idea, that we could probably get something together, a page or something for people to kind of learn about the story, share it, and be able to reach out to either Trisha or myself, or, my brother as well. I mean, that's definitely something we could look into.
Yeah, and it's a good way to maybe have people share it on their social media, and you never know, they share it with the right person, someone in your town, maybe someone a little further away, and maybe someone that was afraid to come forward with information 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was. Maybe they're not afraid now, and maybe they'll come forward and have some kind of information. So it might be worth looking into that. But we're definitely going to do our part and help spread the word so people know that this case is unsolved still. And hopefully if anyone out there listening does have information, they'll do the right thing and come forward and make a call to police and hopefully provide any tips that they have.
Definitely. And that's really all we're trying to do, is get any information we can to hopefully pass something along to the police department for them to, take action. We're hoping to maybe light a fire under them so that they can decide to really take some action and really take the time to look into it. All we want is closure. That's it. We're not asking for anything else other than closure. We just want to know what happened so we can put it to bed.
Sure. And it's been 25 years. That's a quarter century when you think of it in those terms. And that's a long time to not have your mom in your lives. So hopefully somehow, some way, you do eventually get, as you put it, closure, get some kind of answers and find out what happened once and for all.
Exactly. I agree.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on and sharing your mom's story with us and helping us to understand the details a little bit better. And please, if you do get any updates, any breaking news in the case, definitely be sure to reach out to us again, because we'd like to do a follow-up if that happens.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you taking the time to listen to our story and put it out there for others to hear.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, we hope that you'll contact the appropriate authorities.
We hope that you'll tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will really help us grow. And if you'd like to help us reach new listeners, please be sure to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get ad-free early access to every new episode of Missing Persons, as well as any bonus content.
Your Patreon support will really go a long way towards helping. We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder, new episodes of Missing Persons drop every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Facebook for Missing Persons Podcast. We're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can always find us on our website, missingpersonspodcast.net. As we wrap up this episode, Jess and I would like to play a preview for you for a true crime podcast called Ye Olde True Crime. So be sure to give it a listen. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.
Do you love true crime, but are looking for something different?
It sounds like a sitcom.
It does.
The Benders.
The kind of assholes you should probably leave them alone.
Do you like learning about cases so off the wall they can't possibly be true?
Her wig is enormous, but it is lifted off her head by a monkey
Do you love history, but want to hear about what they didn't teach you in school? It's just got a almost where you hang your horns sign.
Do you like laughing awkwardly about cases that are bizarre and a little strange?
They'd be able to wield so many knives with all of their little arms.
Then we have the podcast for you. Join me, Lindsay.
And me, Madison, for Ye Old Crime,
where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear.
Listen every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
as old as crime.
Missing Persons is produced under the name AbJack Entertainment by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt. It's hosted by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt, with writing and research by Jessica Betancourt and editing by Mike Morford. Be sure to listen every other Saturday for an all-new episode of Missing Persons.